Five Nights at Freddy's has a very distinct formula that makes all of its fan games instantly recognizable. Very rarely do I see a FNAF fan game and not be able to say it's a FNAF fan game, and I think you'd agree. If I showed you a video clip of a FNAF fan game you've never seen, I'm pretty confident that you'd be able to tell me it's a FNAF fan game, and you would most likely be 100% right. Sometimes, however, a FNAF fan game will be so well made to the point that at first glance you'd think it's just a normal horror game. Obviously, if you were to begin playing it, you'd very quickly notice it's a fan game, but my point is that in the gaming landscape, unless you're specifically looking for a FNAF fan game to play, even just seeing that formula or look of one would probably turn somebody away. And the game I'll be covering today is a perfect example of the opposite of that. By looking at the gameplay of this game, there's a good chance that, considering you haven't seen it before, you might not be able to tell it's a FNAF fan game at all. That's also considering you don't know who Circus Baby is. I'll get more into her when the time comes, but whatever. I really needed a hook to start this video with. Maybe this one isn't my strongest, but it's what I wrote, so it's what we're going with. The game we'll be diving into today is the web of cogs and oil. Before we begin, in the last video I asked you what your favorite non-DLC specimen from Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion was and why. My favorite comment was this one by Joker of Spades. They chose Specimen 1 because it's pretty funny how it has killed a person, and I agree. I know that they cause heart attacks to kill, but I think the funny part is how that's only ever worked on one person, one time, ever. Also, I've never said this publicly, but I have a Twitter and an Instagram account that you can follow if you're interested. I'm not super active on either right now, but I figure it'd be the normal YouTuber thing to do, so those are in the link in the description. YouTube also keeps sending me emails telling me to set up channel memberships. I feel like it's a bit too early in this channel's lifespan to set something like that up, but let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. I would just put stuff on there for members like early access to videos, allowing you guys to have a say in what game I make a video on next, blah 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 membership stuff. Also, let me know if you'd prefer I did it through YouTube memberships or Patreon, but of course, that doesn't need to happen if you all don't want it to. Sorry, that intro was a bit longer than my normal ones, but it's over now, so let's hop into the web of cogs and oil. The web of cogs and oil is both similar to Five Nights at Freddy's and different from it at the same time. In Five Nights at Freddy's, you start on a menu screen, select new game, and night 1 begins. The web of cogs and oil does it a bit differently. Rather than having the game split up into nights, it's split up into challenges. The web of cogs and oil has 4 monsters, and each monster has its own challenge that you can select from the menu, and each plays differently. I actually really like this non-linearity because if I were to get stuck on one monster and get super frustrated, I could always take a break from that one and work on another. Now, of course, to be fair, I don't feel like you'll be getting frustrated with any of these monsters because none of their challenges I felt were very difficult. In fact, I beat all but one of them on the first try. What can I say? Pretty amazing. So, yeah, worship me. Moving along, I'm going to be talking about the monsters from left to right as they appear on the menu. So let's begin by talking about the corpse. The corpse is by far the easiest to defeat. When you load in, you'll immediately see a timer that begins counting down, and this is the same for all monsters. All you have to do is survive until that timer runs out. I actually really like this mechanic because I feel it causes much more anxiety and stress because you can really see how close you are to completing the challenge, and when you feel like you're on the brink of losing, seeing that you only have 10 seconds left to go can really make your asshole invert even deeper into your body. The corpse has a very basic mechanic. In this challenge, you're locked in a freezer with it. You are at the back of the freezer and the corpse is standing in the doorway blocking your only exit. All he does is walk forward, but he'll only do so when the lights on the ceiling begin to dim. I think this is really creepy. Not scary, but creepy. I'd like to imagine that he only moves while the lights are dim in hopes that you don't see him moving. Imagining it like that makes the atmosphere all the more terrifying. So, how do you keep the lights from going dim, you may be asking? Well, if you'd shut up and let me do my job here, I'd tell you, so pipe down, bud. In front of you, facing the corpse, there is a pole coming out of the ground with a crank attached to it. When you spin the crank, it'll recharge the lights on the ceiling, and if the corpse had already inched closer to you, as the lights become brighter, he'll move away from you and back to the entrance of the freezer. But if that were all, it'd be far too easy. Behind you, there is a thermostat that is constantly going down, making the freezer colder. You'll have to make sure the freezer's temperature doesn't drop too low, because if it gets too cold, you'll shiver so hard that it causes your back to snap in half and you'll die. However, you have to make sure you don't raise the temperature of the freezer too high either. The higher the temperature of the freezer, the faster your lights will dim, leaving you vulnerable to the corpse. And that's it. Do that until the timer runs out and you'll have beaten the corpse. Before we move on to the next monster, I'd like to mention that there is a remaster of this game that is currently being worked on. It's on hiatus right now, but I think it'd be fun to offer some suggestions to the dev that I think would be a cool addition. I love the way each monster plays as it is, but I think it'd be a cool idea if there was sort of a new game plus type feature, wherein after you beat a monster, you can challenge them again and the difficulty will increase, granting you a second star for that monster. But I feel that the way you'd increase the difficulty should definitely be through mechanics rather than just saying, "Hey, thermostat, go down quick, corpse move faster and throw cheeks." For the corpse, I think a really interesting way to increase his difficulty would be to make it so that once he inches closer to you, he won't move back once you recharge the lights. This will make the whole challenge feel much more intense, as you won't be able to spend nearly as long on the thermostat as you typically could. Again, this is purely a new game plus type of idea, as I think the way each monster plays normally is pretty perfectly balanced. This would just be for the sociopaths who want more of a challenge. The second monster is the Trickster. The Trickster is a little toy clown. In his challenge, you're sitting in a bedroom with him in front of you. All you have as a tool of defense is a flashlight. However, the battery to this flashlight drains pretty quickly, so having it on for too long will very easily fuck you over. The Trickster begins in front of you, slumped over. You'll have to listen closely for his footsteps. Once you hear him begin to move, you'll have to find which side of the room he's running towards and flash your light at him. Once you do, he'll ragdoll on the ground in a very painful looking way. If at any point he goes off of either side of your screen, it's game over. Fun fact, this is the only monster I lost to, if you were curious. However, I don't blame myself. Watch this clip. Hey, that was not my fault. That was not my fault. We flashed him. We flashed him. What is this bullshit? That, my friends, is what I call Class A bullshit. Anyways, that's not all this little fucker does. If all you had to do was listen, it'd be incredibly easy. This guy will also move without making any noise at all. When he does, he won't move towards the sides of your screen like he does when he makes noise. Instead, he'll slowly inch towards you. This forces you to turn your flashlight on to check his location all the time to make sure he's not creeping up on you. But of course, because your flashlight drains so quickly, doing so isn't exactly something you'll want to do. On top of this, there are also two jack-in-the-boxes on both sides of the room. Occasionally, they will pop open and create footstep sounds that are basically identical to the Trickster's, and will trick you into turning your light on. Get it? Trick, like in Trickster? Like it's his name? Trickster? Trick? Like that's why they call him the Trick. Repeat this process until the timer runs out and you're all good. I think a fun way to increase the Trickster's difficulty would be to require your flashlight to be on for a period of time before you could turn it off. I say this because by the time I finished the challenge, my flashlight battery was basically half full. All you need to do is very quickly flash it off and on. This gives you enough time to check and make sure he's still there without wasting almost any battery at all. By requiring your flashlight to stay on for even a full second or two before being allowed to be turned back off, you would force the player to have a much lower battery life by the time the challenge is over, making you really think about when you should be using it throughout the challenge. The third monster is the Demon. This one is a doozy. In this challenge, you'll find yourself in a basement with 4 candles and a pentagram on the wall. All you have to do is manage 3 things. 1. Make sure the demon's candles don't go out. The demon has 3 of the 4 candles. 2. Make sure the servant's candle doesn't go out either. The servant has the remaining 1 candle. And 3. Make sure the pentagram on the wall doesn't get too bright. Doing all of these things is really easy. It's managing them all at the same time that can get stressful. Let's start with the pentagram. Throughout the night, it will slowly begin to get brighter and brighter. All you have to do is click hold on it to slowly dim it back down. It's pretty much the music box from FNAF 2. The demon's candles will occasionally go out at random. When one does, all you have to do is click on it to relight it. Super simple. It's the servant's candle that makes this challenge hard. The servant's candle goes out far more frequently than the demon's does, and when his candle does go out, instead of killing you like the demon does, he instead will go over to the demon's candles and blow them out. And he does this very fast. It feels like most of the time that the moment that little asshole's candle goes out, he spawns on the demon's candles and blows those bitches out. It's honestly the pentagram, however, that will really make your penis retract inside your body. Even though dealing with it is super easy, because of how frequently you'll be dealing with the servant, you'll often find yourself not having enough time to tend to it, meaning that as the challenge comes closer to a close, the pentagram is going to be bright as shit, and I promise you that when it is, you'll be holding your breath. I think an interesting way to make this challenge more difficult would be to have the servant blow out 2 candles at a time rather than just 1. This only works because when all of the demon's candles are snuffed, he doesn't kill you immediately. I also think that if all the demon's candles are out and the servant's candles are out at the same time, you should die instantly. This would just add another epic layer of stress to a challenge that already fondled me non-consensually. The final monster is the machine. This one is Circus Baby from FNAF. I don't totally understand why the dev chose to use a FNAF character in this game, considering the other 3 monsters were all original, but I digress. If the other 3 challenges didn't make your butthole pucker enough, I promise you that this one will. In this challenge, you're in a very large industrial building. In the room you're in, you'll find a door with a valve keeping it closed, a window in front of you, and a maintenance panel. This challenge switches up the formula in a really small but very interesting way. In this challenge, you're against the clock. Rather than surviving, you never want that timer to reach 0, because if you do, I bet you could take a pretty good guess as to what happens to you. So how do you escape? Well, throughout the building there are several locked doors. You'll have to use the maintenance panel to unlock each of them before leaving the room you're in and escaping. Upon opening the maintenance panel, you'll see all 5 doors marked red and a D-pad on the side of the screen. You'll have to wait until one of the arrows on the D-pad glows green and then press that corresponding arrow on your keyboard. Do this 5 times and the door will turn green, signifying that it has been unlocked, which means doing this 25 times is all you have to do. However, these arrows don't glow immediately. I'd say there's a good 3 seconds between each arrow lighting up, and since you're in a time crunch where every second counts, 3 seconds will feel like a lifetime. You might be wondering where Baby is. Well, you better not keep your panel up for too long because she will quickly, and I mean very fucking quickly, inch closer and closer towards your window. Just looking at her will make her slowly move away. But once she reaches a certain point, no matter how long you look at her, she won't move back. If she gets too close, she'll break the window and kill you. This adds such a high level of stress it isn't even funny. You might think, well, if the arrows take a while to glow and you need to spend time watching Baby, that sounds super simple. But you also need to keep in mind how fast she moves. Having that panel up for 1 second will allow her to move 2 stages towards your window sometimes, and it'll take a solid 3 to 4 seconds to make her completely go away. Do you see the problem here? It is so incredibly stressful, but hey, once you unlock all 5 doors, all you need to do is leave. But all the things are done. Oh, you're fucking kidding. You're fucking kidding. I lied. After doing all that and realizing how little time you have left on the clock, now you need to slowly crank the valve on the door enough times to get it to unlock. And unlike the maintenance panel, the door is not on the same screen as the window, so you'll have to painstakingly look back and forth from the door to Baby. Again, 1 second is enough to make her launch light speed at that goddamn window, so having to look away, do a task, and then look back will feel like a fucking calendar year. But once you get that door open, you're home free. I honestly can't think of a super great way to make this challenge any harder in a meaningful way. Even though I beat it on the first try, it was still easily the most stressful and challenging. I'm pretty sure I only finished with 2 seconds remaining, but if I had to think of something to add more challenge, I'd say each door you unlock in the maintenance panel should have a different way of unlocking it. The first door could be the arrow keys, but maybe the second door you have to click one of 9 glowing buttons instead, and then another one could maybe be a number on your keyboard, and then each other door would have their own simple task to do, and you could have each door's task randomized so that you couldn't prepare for what you'll have to see in a playthrough. I think you should definitely leave the final door section the same though. I think it's so cool how that's thrown at you last minute, and I love it. But that was the web of cogs and oil. Overall, I think this game is fantastic. It's only a 20 to 30 minute playthrough, so if you have the time, I definitely recommend you check it out. You can watch my full playthrough on my second channel, Dexter Black. I think letting the player choose the order of the monsters they want to fight adds so much to the game that I don't think enough people think about. Imagine you had to complete them in a set order. I'm sure most people did them from left to right, but imagine you didn't even have the choice. I know it seems small, but I feel like if we didn't have the option, we'd definitely notice. Although what you need to do in each night is incredibly easy, they're still balanced in such a perfect way that by the final 30 seconds, they'll all have you stressing out and sweating more than when you walk up the stairs at a below reasonable pace. I know you guys are out of shape. Go hop on the treadmill for 15 to 30 minutes a day. I promise you'll notice a difference in how you feel. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Before I go, the question of the video is, what is your favorite monster from the web of cogs and oil, and why? With the question being asked, I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!